Hey folks, I think you're gonna like today's video because we are going to talk about money. I didn't get this for this video. There's another video I got this for, but since we're talking about salary today, I figured I'd whip it out. Did you know that Asians actually count their money like this? Pretty efficient. Did you ever know that? Because small business owners, you know, immigrants usually, they deal with a lot of cash, and I just remember learning how to count like that from my mom. And the funny part is, like, as you do this, when your fingers get too dry and slippery, just, you know, wet it a little bit with your tongue, your spit, and then just get right back in there. Anyway, you weren't here for that. I digress. This video is going to be about how I doubled my salary, and I did it in just a couple of years. But maybe more importantly, I want to show you through this video that you could do this for yourself too. But we're going to start with a little story, a story that you could probably identify with. When I first started out in UX design, I was really struggling to get my footing and to really make a difference in my role. So I felt like I had a lot of good ideas and my product and design intuition was relatively good, but I just had no idea, no understanding of how to really put that into action. I didn't know how to talk about my work. How to collaborate effectively, and just struggling to really make a difference. I also felt like I just didn't have control over my job at all. I just felt like I had no choice but to just, do designs for problems that was just given to me. So sometimes I could tell when the problem I was given wasn't quite right, or the solution that I came up with wasn't that good, but I just didn't know what to do about it. I didn't know how to actually go about improving those situations. So I just resorted to what I knew how to do, which was basically more or less pixel pushing and doing it extremely fast and just trying to find value or deliver value that way. Does that sound familiar? This might be you. That season when I was really struggling, one of my mentors gifted me a really unusual book. And that book is this one right here, Good Strategy, Bad Strategy by Richard Rumelt. And this is kind of an odd book to be recommending a designer because, what does a designer need to know about strategy? Isn't it for some C-suite executive in some corner office somewhere? But I'm just so glad that he did, because this really gave me a new way to think about design and design in the context of a business. And I credit this book with helping me more than 2x my salary in just a couple of years. So after reading the book and practicing the ideas from it over time, I just got better at understanding how my work was connecting to the company goals. And when problems were given to me, I didn't just need to take it at face value, because I was getting more effective at analyzing it and understanding if it makes sense or it doesn't make sense. In other words, my value as a designer was becoming less and less about pixel pushing and doing it really quickly, and more about problem solving. So let's run through a little scenario so that I could better illustrate to you what I'm talking about and the value of what I learned from this book and what you can learn from it too. So you and I as designers, we've been taught to ask why. Why 5 times preferably, whenever any sort of problem is presented to you, so you could get to the root cause. But I always found that little baffling. Sure, you could ask why 5 times, but if you don't know how to analyze the problem, you won't know when you've gotten to the right problem. It's like trying to explain to a blind person what a certain color is when they've never seen a color before. So you need to have some framework or some understanding or definition of what is a good problem, what is a bad problem, what is a good strategy, what is a bad strategy, for you to even know what it is. So now Richard Rumelt talks about how there's strategy at all levels, and when you think about it, it kind of makes sense, because it's not just strategy up top at some company, because everyone needs to be aware of it and know how to enact the strategy so that goals can be achieved. So that makes sense. The other thing he talks about is how it's actually not that complicated, and he really does a great job of simplifying it down to its 3 key components. And that is, 1, a good strategy has a solid diagnosis. So a problem or obstacle that needs to be overcome, and any underlying forces that are at play, constraints, so to speak. So 2 is a guiding policy, so some guidance on how to make decisions. And 3 is coherent actions. All good strategy has really specific and clear steps so that you could go and address the obstacle or the problem. So after hearing that, you might be wondering, that's actually deadly simple. Like, it's actually too obvious. Like, I don't understand what the big deal is. And I'll get to that in a minute. But for now, what I wanted to explain to you was that the framework that, Richard Rumelt just outlined, that's what gave me a lot of the thinking and the rubric to understand the difference between a good and bad problem or good and bad strategy. So when a PM came to me with a request, or a business stakeholder gave me some feedback or an ask to work on some project, I didn't just take it at face value, because now I had a way of coming up with good questions. And then those good questions would get better responses. But not only that, I was able to analyze those responses. And all of that just gave me a better understanding of how everything was connected and what the good from the bad was and how it might help the company. It gave me more opportunities to be creative and precise with my solutions. Back to this idea of that framework being extremely simple. It is simple, but bad strategy is unfortunately rather common. A bad strategy is one that is extremely vague, it's unfocused, it's based on unrealistic assumptions, it's overly reliant maybe on a single idea, and there's just no specific or clear steps or actions to be taken to solve the problem. All right, so to give you some examples without actually naming the companies, I've worked at places where the product goal was to make more money. Seriously. To which you have to wonder, well, isn't that the goal of every single business on earth? So if I sell pizza on the street corner in the name of the company, am I hitting my product goals? So I've also worked at companies where the strategy was more or less to literally do everything. And it kind of sounded like this. They had this new, shiny new product vision for the upcoming year, and it's meant to solve this new problem that they discovered from their customers. And frankly, that vision was pretty amazing, pretty exciting. But the problem was they more or less said they're not going to hire new people, and everything we've been doing, all the multiple products we already had and the customers we already were servicing, all of that still needed to continue. I just wasn't sure how that's going to work. It's vague, it's unfocused, and there's really no clear actionable steps there. So everyone is just supposed to somehow figure out a way to carve their time and focus on this new initiative while they're also trying to keep everything else afloat. Yeah, I don't know. So that's all to say, using the principles from Good Strategy, Bad Strategy, I was able to develop an effective and more focused approach to UX design. Granted, it was slow in the beginning, it did take some practice, but I started to get results and I was able to measure it. And over time, my contribution started to get bigger and bigger. And that is what helped me more than double my salary in just a couple of years. And I think the story could be the same for you too. I always recommend a book to designers I really care about and who really are looking to level up their career. It really is a game-changing book. It's going to help you think more strategically about your work and help you achieve your goals. So, like always, I'll leave the link in the description below. Go check it out, and I guess I'll see you in the next one.